Vise's police are still insisting that I work for the Russian government, which is altogether rather annoying indeed. I wouldn't operate for the Russian government, no matter what they offered me, so it's interesting to consider that the Vise's police are basically making out that all of the accusations against them were cooked up in a KGB office somewhere in Russia. It is all very interesting to consider indeed. The KGB would not like to employ a strung out paranoid schizophrenic for an operation such as this. However, saying that, the KGB do have vast networks of schizophrenic super spies. However, they prefer that they are not strung out while they are operating. So it's all very interesting to consider the KGB do employ a large schizophrenic super spy network. So it's all very interesting indeed. The schizophrenic super spy network employed by the KGB is potentially more elaborate than the British schizophrenic super spy program, i.e. Project Aniseed. So it's all very interesting to consider the fact that both British and Russian intelligence, as well as US intelligence, which is itself technically a branch of the British intelligence services, all of these networks do have vast networks of schizophrenic super spies. I say vast, they're not that vast. Is the total number of Russian schizophrenic super spies is probably about 3,000, whereas in Britain it's probably about 1,000, and in the United States it's probably about 4,000 or 5,000 schizophrenic super spies employed by the United States intelligence community. So it's all very interesting to consider, and indeed, in all of these examples, these schizophrenic super spies are all test subjects in terminal experiments. Indeed, they are never released from service. The experiment continues, so it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, Russian mental patients in the Russian intelligence services are treated terribly by their masters and are often neutralized after numerous operations. So it's interesting to consider. Indeed, Russia operates on a high level of secrecy. Indeed, Britain also operates on a high level of secrecy, and indeed, Britain is also known for eliminating its schizophrenic super spies, as is the United States. Indeed, I've spoken before of an encounter I had with a former British intelligence operative while I was in the Green Lane psychiatric facility in 2017, and this individual was a paranoid schizophrenic named Stephen. Indeed, he enlightened me to the truth regarding the Asylum Keepers Guild, as I had delineated in a previous video. And indeed, the Asylum Keepers Guild are psychocrats and operate a psychocratic scheme for the running of the nation as if it were a mental hospital. So it's interesting how the Asylum Keepers Guild ideology tallies in with the Reesian ideology of Brigadier General John Rawlings Rees, who believed that society should be run by a cabal of psychiatrists and that there should be employed 5,000 psychiatric shock troops to basically police the nation. So it's all very interesting to consider, especially if you also consider the focus in the Soviet Union on psychopolitics and psychocorrection. This tallies up with the Reesian ideology. Indeed, it's interesting to consider that many of the schemes created by Soviet psychopolitical psychiatrists were very similar to those theories that were being propounded by the Tavistock Institute at the same time. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, Soviet psychiatry was truly one of the worst examples of what psychiatry can do. Indeed, as soon as the Communist Party was sworn into power in 1917, psychopolitical experimentation began, and parapsychological research and medical testing of paranoid schizophrenics and mind control experimentation all became the order of the day. Indeed, At the same time, in the United Kingdom, Tavistock was also operating mind control experiments. So, although I stated before that the Mindgate program began in 1947, the roots of it go back far further. And indeed, the Mindgate program could be dated to 1874, interestingly. So, it's interesting to consider that British intelligence were involved in the mind control experimentation on paranoid schizophrenics as early as the 1870s. So it's all very interesting to consider. Sorry, I just need a quick vape. Sorry. Indeed, the Russian Secret Service is notorious for black information campaigns against the government and institutions of the United Kingdom. However, the psychological warfare that I am carrying out against Devices Police has nothing to do with a Russian disinformation program at all. Indeed, it's quite interesting to note that a lot of the stories that are so-called engineered in KGB laboratories regarding the intelligence capacity of the United Kingdom and the police services, etc., do seem to have some element of truth to them. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, Russian mental patient intelligence networks are always being tricked by the KGB and therefore are coerced into operating for the KGB without fully realizing that they are operating for the KGB. Indeed, the KGB's networks of schizophrenic super spies are so heavily hypno-programmed that the majority of the time they do not realize they are operating for the KGB, as is the same with the schizophrenic super spies operating for the British intelligence services. They are unconsenting and therefore merely experimental test subjects in terminal experiments. So it's interesting to consider a lot of the time as a schizophrenic super spy operating for the intelligence services of the United Kingdom, you are not fully aware that you are operating as a schizophrenic super spy for the intelligence community of the United Kingdom. So it's all very interesting to know. And also there is a lot of memory erasure, brain wiping, and lobotomies used on schizophrenic super spies to basically conceal any classified information or classified documentation that has been stored in the brains of the schizophrenic super spy from being hacked into by, for instance, the Russian intelligence services, as the Russian intelligence services are notorious for targeting British intelligence schizophrenic super spies and attempting to crack their coding and reprogram them, as I believe happened to me at certain points over the last 12 years. Indeed, I do believe, indeed, maybe 13 years. Indeed, I do believe that during my tenure in a Russian psychiatric hospital in Voronezh, I was experimented on in a Russian mind control experiment. So it's all very interesting to know. Indeed, I believe that the GRU had access to that facility and were attempting to manipulate my coding so that I would operate as a hypno-programmed operative in the West for the GRU, i.e. the Russian military intelligence capacity. So whether this is the case or not, I do not know. Indeed, I may still be under a certain degree of programming by the Russian military intelligence capacity, and therefore all of the information harvested from my brainwaves does, via GRU headquarters, make its way to the KGB headquarters at Lubyanka. So it's all very interesting to note, and indeed, British intelligence are afraid of Russian intelligence's capacity for parapsychology and the utilization of psychic spies. So it's all very interesting to note that the hybrid war between the United Kingdom and the Russian Federation, a lot of it is taking place in the fifth dimension. So it's all very interesting to note Indeed, British Freemasons are attempting to coordinate the activities of at least 1,000 paranoid schizophrenic super spies in the United Kingdom via methods of programming and attempting to harness the brainwaves of these schizophrenic super spies for utilization in an astral conflict between British psychics and Russian psychics. So it's all very interesting to note. Indeed, this current conflict between the United Kingdom and the Russian Federation is taking on a rather science fiction element to it. So it's all very interesting to note. And indeed, I believe my research these days should engage more in sci-fi concepts, because a lot of these sci-fi concepts are actually real. Indeed, as I stated before, the schizophrenic super spies that are operative for the British intelligence services are microchipped and are therefore mind-controlled microchipped slaves. And indeed, the Russian schizophrenic super spies are also microchipped. So it's interesting to consider, indeed, a lot of data can be gathered by the intelligence communities from these microchips, especially if these microchips are implanted in the brain. Indeed, the intelligence services have a technique whereby they can inject a microchip into your bloodstream, and the microchip makes its way to the brain where it nests somewhere in the brain. I'm not entirely sure exactly where, perhaps in the cerebellum. So it's all very interesting to note and really quite scary to note what is happening regarding the microchipping of paranoid schizophrenics. Indeed, the intelligence community of the United Kingdom wants to microchip all schizophrenics, whether or not they are operative for the British intelligence services or not. So it's interesting to consider that if there is a coming Cold War conflict between the United Kingdom and the Russian Federation, the paranoid schizophrenics will be targeted for experimentation, mass microchipping, and neutralization in some capacity. Indeed, it's interesting to note that when global events begin to occur on a sheer scale of magnitude, all of the paranoid schizophrenics began to act rather crazy. And indeed, this is the case at the moment around the United Kingdom. The paranoid schizophrenic population of the United Kingdom is beginning to act in a very interesting way. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that paranoid schizophrenics, due to transmissions from the cosmos, can sense the fact that there is a coming global cataclysm and potential Third World War. So it's all very interesting to note. Indeed, I have not yet come to a conclusion as to whether or not the United Kingdom intelligence community and the Russian intelligence community are in fact controlled by the same network, i.e. the entity, i.e. a German Nazi long-range intelligence continuum. So I have theorized on that many times on this video diary, indeed, but there are genuine conflicts between nations. Indeed, even though I try not to think in terms of nations and think in terms of networks, there are genuine conflicts between networks that represent nation state bodies. So it's all very, very, very interesting to consider. Indeed, Soviet schizophrenic super spies do seem to be a little more well read than their British counterparts. So it's all very interesting in terms of conflicts between schizophrenic super spies. Russian Federation has the upper hand to the United Kingdom. However, this can be rectified if schizophrenics in the United Kingdom would start reading more. However, I do not relish a conflict between schizophrenic super spy networks of the United Kingdom and the schizophrenic super spy networks of the Russian Federation, as I believe we are all one as paranoid schizophrenics. So it's interesting to consider that the handlers of these networks are rather scared about placing schizophrenic super spies in hostile territories because of the fact that the schizophrenic super spies in that nation, i.e., the hostile territory, would find common accord with the schizophrenic super spy who is being forced to operate as a hypno-programmed operative, agent, spy, or assassin in the hostile territory. So it's all very interesting to note. Indeed, hypno-programmed assassins are used by both the Western cryptocracies and the Soviets. Indeed, the CIA has a large network of paranoid schizophrenic mind-controlled assassin super spies. So it's interesting to consider this. Indeed, the United States intelligence community is very negligent towards these paranoid schizophrenic hypno-programmed assassins. And indeed, they are tinkering with the minds of people far too much. And indeed, there are so many cases of paranoid schizophrenic super spies turning against their handlers. Indeed, these are issues of national security, and therefore they are covered up, and something else will happen, such as paranoid schizophrenics murdering pensioners in the United Kingdom. Indeed, it's possible that these paranoid schizophrenics did not actually murder these pensioners at all. And in fact, these pensioners were murdered by Masonic hitmen, and these crimes were blamed on paranoid schizophrenics who had been schizophrenic super spies for the British intelligence services and had turned against their handlers. So it's all very interesting to note. Indeed, I'd like to reiterate the story of 1994, a strange experimental spy plane being remotely controlled from the Russian Federation came down not far away from Warminster. Indeed, there were 2 Russian mental patients aboard who looked rather similar to me, scruffy and strange, with crazy eyes, and these Russian mental patients were arrested by Devizes police who were operating on a Ministry of Defense contract. Indeed, these Russian mental patients were arrested and taken to Bristol, where they were given semi-lobotomies, i.e. their neural pathways were changed. And they were forced to operate for the British intelligence services, especially the branch of the British intelligence services connected to the monarchy. So it's interesting to consider this was a defense of the realm network. And indeed, these Russian mental patients are still kept in a closed facility somewhere in Bristol to this day, where they operate as psychic spies for the United Kingdom intelligence services. So it's interesting to consider indeed these Russian mental patients that are trained in psychic spying, remote viewing, and hypno-programmed assassination operations are highly valuable and are basically commodities that the British intelligence services are seeking to appropriate more of these Russian mental patients for operations. And indeed, this has a lot of bearing on the Roundway experiment. Indeed, the Roundway experiment is an agreement between the United Kingdom intelligence community and the Chechen mob. Indeed, it seems that the Chechen mob actually kidnapped Russian mental patients from secret psychiatric facilities around the Russian Federation, transport them to Vladivostok, where they are put in containers on ships and eventually dropped off in the Barnstable region, as I've been explaining. And indeed, this is all very interesting indeed. However, a lot of these Russian mental patients are seen as surplus to requirements and therefore are harvested for their organs by the Walter Rosenstein's butcher shop cartel. So it's interesting to see that. However, others are utilized by the British intelligence services for operations against their original country, i.e. the Russian Federation. So it's all very interesting to consider indeed. It's all very strange. And indeed, this is certainly high strangeness, this utilization of mental patients as intelligence commodities and utilizing the brainwaves of mental patients for data harvesting and as part of a wider espionage agenda. So it's all very, very interesting to consider the idea behind the intelligence community utilizing schizophrenic super spies. Indeed, although we are seen as useless and incurable, we do have high intelligence value. Indeed, there are various networks bidding on schizophrenic super spies that are kidnapped by organized criminal groups and therefore are put up for sale to various intelligence agencies, both state and private, in auctions. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, paranoid schizophrenics possess paranormal capabilities and psychic phenomena, and the intelligence services are deeply into the study of these mechanisms and techniques of operations. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, I'm going to leave it there now. That's my 20-minute memo done for the day. Indeed, thank you.